Hi, I'm Pat Hasey. After my last blog post, a hybrid event sounds like a good idea, doesn't it? Let's assume that you are now considering a hybrid for your next conference. It involves more than using Skype, Google Hangouts, or your iPhone's FaceTime. The webcast must be produced and staged professionally, taking into account those attending face-to-face as well as those attending virtually. This need not be over-the-top staging, just good lighting and good sound with a simple background. But with a knowledgeable webcast or virtual meeting or hybrid meeting producer manager, you can stage the program so it's easy to see and hear. Sounds simple, I know, but have you looked at some webcasts lately? I've seen some strange backgrounds and presenters dressed incorrectly for broadcast. Just like any conference, objectives must be established. In the case of hybrid meetings, there are separate objectives for the overall conference and for the face-to-face and virtual audiences. This will take a great deal of planning and excellent communication amongst stakeholders and outsourced webcasting producers and managers. The flow of your webcast is critical, even more so than a basic live event. You must stay on track and to schedule. Just as the face-to-face event must be seamless, so must the webcast event, perhaps even more. My suggestion is to have a host to interview speakers and key attendees during session breaks in order to keep your virtual audience online and tuned into your event. Part of the pre-planning can include developing games to involve your virtual audience. The caveat, however, is that the procedure and the games must be clearly explained to your virtual audience prior to the conference or event. If they're not explained well, the whole thing could fall apart. You don't have a second chance to keep your audience engaged, so you absolutely must be sure that you've given the instructions clearly and have answered any questions about the procedure days before the event. If the plan is to have regional or local pods, again, the procedures must be thoroughly explained in detail. Each pod must have a local facilitator who understands the process and is web savvy. As a matter of fact, I'd have a conference call with all facilitators to be sure that everyone is on the same page. That's the time for procedural questions. A webcast takes more strategical planning than just the face-to-face aspect. There are also technological issues of format and access. Be sure that you and your team are willing to take that on. Also, be willing to look for the right people to do the webcast. You'll need to find the right technology and production partners. Here's what I suggest looking for when considering a partner for webcasting a live event. You don't need to write this down, as I'll make it available on my blog. 1. What is their experience in the meetings and events industry? 2. Do they have someone on their team who understands meetings and events planning and management best practices? 3. Does their team have an experienced director and video cameraman? 4. Can they shoot in high definition? 5. Do they have backup equipment on site? 6. Can they broadcast to all levels of computers as well as to smartphones and tablets? 7. To how many virtual attendees can they broadcast? 8. Can they broadcast internationally if needed? 9. Will they make an on-site visit to check the capability of the venue for bandwidth and reliability? 10. Will the webcasting people meet with you to give you input and feedback for ways to engage the virtual audience? 11. Will the webcasting people help you with planning and input for regional pods? 12. Is the company full service rather than one that does just one thing? The full service background gives them a better overview of how a meeting is planned and produced, and therefore can help you with the overall process. I've hit upon just the highlights of streaming an event live, as well as on-demand viewing, but there's much, much more to this. But don't let me intimidate you. Why not begin looking at the webcasting potential for your conference or event?